Hey, this is Mr. Aiden. This is 8th grade class corner, 8th grade science, and we're going to be doing photosynthesis. We did a photosynthesis introduction last time. We're going to be zeroing in on just stage one, the light dependent reactions. So we are going in depth on photosynthesis stage one. We were at about 30,000 feet. We're going down to about 500 feet. And we're going to take a look at photosynthesis stage one. But let's do a little quick review of our photosynthesis. What were our reactants of photosynthesis? What did we need in order for photosynthesis to happen? We need 6 moles of water. 6 moles of water. We need 6 moles of carbon dioxide. And we will also need light energy to break those bonds. And what are we going to make out of that is we're going to make some sugar C6H12O6, and we're going to make some oxygen gas, which is nice because I like to breathe. Well, what do you know is in stage one, and we're going to be zeroing in on stage one today. Stage two we're going to have for later. Well, what did we have? We have light coming into stage one. We also have some water coming into stage one, and this is all happening in the thylakoids. Remember, in the thylakoids, inside that chloroplast. And what are we going to get out? What are we going to produce? So our reactant is going to be water. We're going to need light energy in these light-dependent reactions in the thylakoids. And what are we going to produce? We're going to produce oxygen gas out of stage one. We're also going to produce ATP and a molecule called NADPH. What is going to come back into stage one as well? What's going to be another reactant is ADP and NADPH plus, NADP plus, my fault on that, NAD plus, but you can see NAD plus. But what is going to be our main reactant is going to be water coming in. What's going to be our main product is oxygen gas coming out, as well as some high energy molecules of ATP. So let's zero in on stage one. Stage one, we have part A and part B of stage one. Part A we call photosystems 2, and you're like, why don't we call it photosystems 1? Because we call it photosystems 2. And this is called the electron transport. So energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll in the thylakoid membrane. Okay, that's what you saw. The energy is coming in, the light energy is coming into the thylakoid membrane. The energy is transferred to electrons, which enters what's called the electron transport chain, the ETC, the electron transport chain, so that the energy is being transferred to electrons. And what do we know is water molecules break down. Okay, water molecules are going to break down into oxygen gas, that's what we get, H+, that's called a proton, and electrons are produced. So that water breaks down. Now think about it. We have water. Water is H2O. So what's water going to break down into? It's water going to break down into H+, it's going to break down into O2, and actually 2 moles of H+, O2, and high energy electrons. And you can see these H+, these protons, are going to be transferred across the thylakoid membrane inside the thylakoid. And the electrons are moved to photosystems 1. So that's called photosystems 2 in the electron transport chain. In stage 1, part B, we call that photosystems 1 and energy carrying molecules. Now what do we have is coming from our photosystems 2, if you remember, right at the end of photosystems 2, we had electrons that are moving. Electrons that are moving from photosystems 2. They're absorbing more light, which means they're increasing in energy, and they're leaving the molecule. And what do we make? We make NADPH. NADPH is produced when the high energy electrons are added to the NADP+. So you can see as the NADP+ is coming from stage 2, that NADP+ is gaining the H+, it's also gaining electrons as well. And the H+ does what's called diffuses. We have diffusion occurring when a gradient of H+ flows through a protein channel in the thylakoid membrane. And what do we get is ATP is produced when an enzyme called ATP synthase, you read an article about ATP synthase, adds a phosphate to ADP with the H plus ions, and so that is called ATP. Now, I always love to look at things in pictures. I think pictures are sometimes the easiest way to understand what's happening here. And you can see right here is we have light coming in, and we also have water coming in. Okay. Now, as light comes in and water comes in, that comes into what's called Photosystems 2. Okay, Photosystems 2. So what happens to the water and the light? The light comes in, hits the water molecules, and breaks those water molecules' bonds. Remember, H2O looks kind of like this. It's a bent molecule. And what do you know? That light comes in and breaks those bonds. And what do we make? We make 4 H pluses, that's 4 protons, and we make O2 gas, oxygen gas. It splits up the water. It also makes electrons. And these electrons get caught in what's called the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain. And so electrons get flow through here. Electrons flow through. You can see the electrons flow through here. Okay? Now, we're making not just one H plus, but we're making a bunch of H pluses, a bunch of H pluses in here. Okay? And you can see what's happening is we have this protein channel which is also diffusing and putting H plus over this side over here. Okay. Well, that goes from Photosystems 2 into Photosystems 1. Okay. And Photosystems 1 has more light energy coming in. So that light energy is taking those electrons, and guess what it's doing? Those electrons, it's making the electrons even more energized. Energize. Okay? And we have an amazing protein. What's this protein called? It's called ATP synthase. And what is ATP synthase doing? ATP synthase is taking these electrons, it's taking H plus, it's taking NAD plus, and it's making some NADPH and a lot of ATP. And that ATP and that NADPH is going off to stage 2. Okay? That was stage 1, the light-dependent reactions. That is an in-depth look, a really sophisticated in-depth look at stage 1. Make sure you do your self-assessment on photosynthesis stage 1, light-dependent reactions.